History is often written in blood, but sometimes it is written in a substance far more silent and far more precise. Welcome to About Untold History. I am your narrator, Elias Untold Vance, and today we are peeling back the layers of a hidden past, one shaped by the toxic, the lethal, and the forbidden. For centuries, power was not just maintained through armies or alliances. It was maintained through the subtle, calculated drop of a secret elixir. From the gilded halls of ancient kings to the hidden laboratories of the Renaissance, we are tracing the path of substances that didn't just kill individuals. They toppled empires and rewrote the blueprints of civilization. But there is a twist to this deadly narrative. The very poisons that once brought fear and chaos eventually became the foundation for the life-saving medicines we rely on today. Prepare to look at the shadows of our past, where the cure and the curse are often one and the same. Let us descend into the history of the lethal. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. The inception of toxicology, the systematic study of poisons, is as old as civilization itself. Though it existed for millennia under the guise of mysticism, survival, and political necessity, in the ancient world, the ability to harness the toxicity of plants, minerals, and animal venoms was a form of supreme knowledge, a secret craft guarded by priests, healers, and those who moved in the shadows of the ruling class. To understand the gravity of this history, one must first recognize that the ancients did not view poison simply as a weapon of malice. It was a catalyst. In societies where political advancement was often a zero-sum game, the silent removal of an obstacle was an art form, a craft that required an intimate understanding of botany and timing. Let us consider the environment of the ancient Mediterranean. While the average citizen struggled with the vagaries of nature, the elite were engaging in a silent war of attrition. The use of poisons like hemlock, aconite, and belladonna was well documented by early observers. Socrates, the legendary philosopher of Athens, serves as the most prominent example of the legal application of state-sanctioned poison. When he was condemned to death in 399 BCE, the method chosen was the ingestion of Conium maculatum, poison hemlock. This was not a chaotic death. It was an execution of clinical precision. The active alkaloid, coniine, acts by paralyzing the nervous system while the mind remains clear until the very end. The historical accounts of his death provide one of the earliest, most vivid descriptions of systemic paralysis caused by a botanical toxin. However, to view this only as a political execution is to miss the broader significance. The knowledge required to extract and administer these substances speaks to an advanced, albeit localized, understanding of pharmacognosy. These ancient practitioners understood dosage, absorption, and the physiological response of the human body. They knew that a substance that could kill could also, in minute, carefully controlled quantities, be used for therapeutic purposes. The duality of the pharmakon, a Greek term that simultaneously means remedy and poison, is the cornerstone of our exploration. It reminds us that our ancestors were already grappling with the fundamental principles of toxicology. The dose makes the poison. As we move deeper into the annals of history, we find that these early practices were not isolated incidents. They were part of a wider cultural exchange. In Egypt, the use of toxic substances was intertwined with their sophisticated medical practices. Records from the Ebers Papyrus suggest that healers were well versed in the properties of various plants that could cause death if handled improperly. The fascination with the lethal was not merely about destruction. It was a profound interest in the boundaries of life and death. The development of early antidotes, crude as they may have been, showed that humanity was constantly seeking to counteract the very things we learned to fear. This era set the stage for the professionalization of the toxicologist, a figure who would eventually evolve into the modern forensic scientist, but whose origins were rooted in the dark, whispered arts of the ancient world. Throughout this series, Elias Untold Vance will guide you through the evolution of this knowledge, from the crude roots and berries of the past to the sophisticated biochemical understanding that defines our modern age. The history of poison is, at its heart, the history of our relentless pursuit of knowledge, regardless of the cost. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. As we move from the philosophical debates of ancient Greece to the grand, often brutal stage of the Roman Empire, the nature of poisoning undergoes a transformation. It transitions from a tool of judicial procedure to a pervasive instrument of political strategy. In Rome, where the pursuit of power was absolute, the dinner table became as dangerous as the battlefield. The rise of the Roman elite brought with it a culture of suspicion, where the most formidable weapon was not the gladius, but the discreet addition of a tasteless, odorless powder to a goblet of wine. This era introduced the world to the king of poisons, arsenic. Often referred to as inheritance powder in later centuries, its use in Rome was the genesis of a dark tradition that would persist for nearly 2 millennia. The Roman fascination with poisons like arsenic, lead, and various nightshades was not born of mere savagery. It was a consequence of the rigid, high-stakes power structures of the Principate and the later Empire. When an emperor's position was threatened, and when the line of succession was contested, the most efficient way to ensure stability, or to usurp it, was through the silent elimination of rivals. The Roman historian Tacitus and other chroniclers of the age frequently alluded to these fatal banquets. The administration of such toxins required a level of social proximity that made the act particularly intimate. One had to be a confidant, a family member, or a trusted servant to successfully execute such a maneuver. This created an atmosphere of extreme paranoia within the imperial household, forcing rulers to employ professional food tasters, a role that was both highly esteemed and incredibly precarious. However, the Roman encounter with poison also highlights a fundamental misunderstanding of toxicity. Many Roman aristocrats were poisoned by their own lifestyle. The widespread use of lead in cookware, pipes, and even as a sweetener, lead acetate, known as sapa, meant that the elite were in a state of chronic, low-level poisoning. This environmental toxicity, combined with the intentional use of arsenic, complicates the forensic narrative of Roman history. Were the sudden illnesses of various statesmen the result of a coordinated plot, or the inevitable outcome of a society obsessed with luxury at the expense of its own biological safety? This is the point where history and toxicology begin to converge in a way that requires modern analysis. The political necessity of poison in Rome also forced a parallel advancement in forensic thinking, however rudimentary. The earliest attempts to detect poison involved observing the victim's reaction. Was there a sudden change in complexion, a rapid onset of convulsions, or a slow, wasting decline? While they lacked the chemical reagents to identify the substance, they were becoming expert observers of symptomatology. They learned that the timing of the dose relative to the ingestion was a critical variable. They observed that certain poisons could be buffered by specific foods, a primitive understanding of pharmacokinetics. By the time of the late Empire, the use of poison had become so ingrained in the political consciousness that it was no longer a secret art, but a known, ever-present threat that dictated the behaviors and rituals of the powerful. This period represents the maturation of poison as a tool of statecraft. a legacy that would deeply influence the power struggles of the Middle Ages and beyond. We are witnessing the birth of the professional assassin, not one who wields a blade, but one who manipulates the very chemistry of life to ensure a desired historical outcome. Elias Untold Vance notes that, as we proceed, the methodologies will grow more sophisticated, reflecting the evolving ingenuity of those who live in the shadows. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. As the sun set on the classical antiquity of Rome, Europe descended into a period where the boundary between science and superstition blurred into the enigmatic realm of alchemy. In the medieval and early Renaissance periods, the art of poisoning did not disappear. It retreated into the sanctuary of the apothecary and the secret laboratories of the alchemist. During this epoch, the pursuit of the philosopher's stone, that legendary substance capable of transmuting base metals into gold, was inextricably linked to the study of toxic compounds. The alchemists, those precursors to modern chemists, were masters of sublimation, distillation, and crystallization. They sought the secrets of longevity and transmutation, but their work frequently yielded substances of terrifying lethality. Arsenic, mercury, and antimony became the primary tools in a new, sophisticated arsenal of death that transcended the simple plant extracts of the past. The political landscape of Renaissance Italy, specifically the rise of powerful, paranoid dynasties like the Borgias and the Medicis, turned poison into a highly specialized technology. In these courts, the poisoner was a legitimate, albeit terrifying, profession. Historians often debate the extent to which these figures, such as Lucrezia Borgia or the practitioners under the command of Cesare Borgia, were responsible for the deaths attributed to them. However, the reputation of these families as masters of the cantarella, a fabled white, tasteless poison, cemented the status of the toxin as a hallmark of power. This was an era where the act of poisoning required an exquisite degree of sophistication. One did not simply add poison to wine. One might poison the handle of a letter opener, the pages of a book, or even the inner lining of a glove. The target had to be neutralized in a way that left no room for suspicion, often mimicking the symptoms of common diseases like the plague or dysentery. This sophistication forced a response in the medical community. The Renaissance saw the beginning of a genuine scientific inquiry into the nature of toxicity. Figures like Paracelsus began to challenge the ancient dogmatic views, famously asserting that the difference between a poison and a medicine was solely in the dosage. This philosophical shift was monumental. It moved us away from viewing poison as a magical or divine curse, and toward viewing it as a chemical interaction with the biological body. The study of poisons began to require a laboratory, a collection of reagents, and an understanding of the periodic table, even if the table itself had not yet been formally structured. During this era, we also see the birth of professional forensic interest in death. The sudden, mysterious death of a nobleman or a rival would trigger investigations by local authorities or rival houses. Physicians were occasionally tasked with performing rudimentary postmortems, looking for the telltale signs of systemic poisoning. While they lacked the chemical means for a positive identification of a toxin, they were beginning to document the internal changes that occurred post-mortem, such as discoloration of the stomach lining or the odor of the organs. This period represents the crucible of modern toxicology. The secrets of the laboratory were being unlocked, and the knowledge of how to end a life was slowly, very slowly, giving way to the knowledge of how to sustain it. Elias Untold Vance emphasizes that this period is the most critical turning point in our narrative. It is here that the alchemist's dark art begins the long metamorphosis into the systematic rigor of the pharmacological laboratory. The shadows of the past were becoming clearer, and the era of the unseen killer was about to meet its match in the cold, unyielding light of analytical science. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, Follow us and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. As we transition into the 19th century, the landscape of poisoning underwent a seismic shift, moving from the hushed courts of the nobility to the terrifying reality of the common household. The Victorian era, characterized by rapid industrialization and the ubiquity of arsenic in everyday items, from wallpaper pigments to flypaper and medicines, provided the perfect cover for a new breed of killer. Arsenic, in particular, was so widely available that it became the inheritance powder of the working class. It was cheap, tasteless, and could be easily disguised in a morning cup of tea or a bowl of porridge. This era of rampant, quiet domestic homicide necessitated a revolution in justice, the birth of modern forensic toxicology. Before this period, proving poisoning in a court of law was notoriously difficult. If a victim died, the symptoms were often indistinguishable from those of common diseases like cholera or severe gastrointestinal distress. The legal system was essentially toothless against the subtle assassin. This changed forever with the landmark work of chemists like James Marsh. In 1836, Marsh developed the Marsh test, a groundbreaking scientific procedure capable of detecting even microscopic traces of arsenic in human tissue. For the first time in history, science could offer irrefutable proof of a crime that had previously been committed in perfect silence. This was the moment the balance of power shifted from the killer to the forensic investigator. The implications were profound. The Marsh test and subsequent advancements in chemical analysis turned the courtroom into a laboratory. Juries were no longer asked to rely on circumstantial evidence or rumors. They were shown the arsenic mirror, a physical stain of metallic arsenic produced by the test. This visual, undeniable evidence of guilt revolutionized the judicial system and brought a degree of accountability that was previously unimaginable. It sparked the professionalization of the toxicologist, a role that began to be seen as the ultimate arbiter of truth in cases of sudden, unexplained death. However, this scientific victory was not without its shadows. As forensic techniques improved, so did the ingenuity of the killers. The public, fascinated and horrified by the new science of detection, devoured sensationalized newspaper reports of poison trials. This obsession with toxic crimes permeated Victorian culture, influencing literature and our collective fear of the unseen. It wasn't just about the chemistry. It was about the psychological terror of realizing that the person sitting across the breakfast table might be the one holding the vial. Elias Untold Vance points out that this era solidified the toxicologist's role as the modern detective. We had entered an age where no secret could remain buried beneath the soil, and no poison could remain hidden within the body, provided the investigator had the right reagent. The invisible killer had finally met its match in the cold, unyielding precision of analytical chemistry, setting a precedent for every crime laboratory that operates in our modern world today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. As the 19th century bled into the 20th, the nature of our toxicological story underwent another radical mutation. We moved away from the naturally occurring arsenic and botanical toxins of the Victorian era and into the dawn of synthetic chemistry. The Industrial Revolution did more than build cities and steam engines. It unleashed an unprecedented wave of artificial compounds into the human environment. This was the era where laboratory-synthesized substances began to outpace those found in nature. Chemists, fueled by the desire to improve industrial efficiency, unwittingly created a vast new library of potential poisons. From synthetic dyes to early plastics and refined petrochemicals, The toxicologist's world expanded from the simple detection of heavy metals to the complex, multi-layered task of identifying synthetic compounds that had never existed in the naturally world before. This transition was marked by the birth of the massive chemical industry. Huge corporations began mass-producing compounds that had profound effects on human physiology, often before their long-term toxicological impact was fully understood. The scientific community found itself in a constant, frantic game of catch-up. When a new chemical was introduced into the market or the factory floor, it was often the public, the workers and the consumers, who served as the primary, involuntary test subjects. This period saw the rise of occupational toxicology, as researchers began to correlate specific illnesses with exposure to industrial byproducts. The Mad Hatter, a phenomenon caused by mercury exposure in the felt hat industry, was just the tip of the iceberg of a much larger, darker reality. The complexity of the challenges facing forensic toxicologists grew exponentially. It was no longer sufficient to look for a single, metallic signature. Investigators now had to contend with complex molecular structures, volatile organic compounds, and substances that could interfere with biological processes in ways that were previously unimaginable. This required a move towards sophisticated instrumentation. The development of chromatography and early spectroscopy became the new standard. These tools allowed for the separation and identification of complex chemical mixtures, providing a level of precision that the pioneers of the Victorian age could only dream of. The laboratory became a space of high-tech verification, where the identity of a substance could be proven with absolute molecular certainty. Yet, this scientific progress was double-edged. As we became better at identifying these synthetic threats, the sheer scale of potential poisons became overwhelming. The focus shifted from the intentional interpersonal assassination, the hallmark of the Borgias or the Victorian poisoner, to the unintentional systemic harm caused by industrial progress. Toxicology became a matter of public health, environmental policy, and corporate regulation. Elias Untold Vance notes that this was the moment we began to realize that the most dangerous poisons were no longer those we put in a cup, but those we allowed to permeate our air, our water, and our products. We had created a new artificial world, and in doing so, we had inadvertently written a new, complex, and potentially lethal chapter in the history of human toxicity. The fight was no longer just against the individual criminal. It was against the invisible industrial consequences of our own progress. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. The transition into the 20th century did not merely bring about industrial chemical advancements. It ushered in an era where these developments were weaponized on a global, unprecedented scale. The First World War shattered the illusion that chemistry could only be a tool for human progress. With the deployment of chlorine, phosgene, and later, mustard gas, the battlefield was transformed into a toxic laboratory of horror. This period represents the most grotesque intersection of toxicology and military strategy in history. Poison, which had once been the quiet, surgical tool of the political assassin, was now transformed into a blunt, indifferent instrument of mass destruction, capable of sweeping through trenches and suffocating entire battalions in a matter of minutes. This dark chapter of history forced a chilling evolution in our understanding of chemical warfare agents. Soldiers were no longer just battling bullets and artillery. They were fighting invisible clouds of terror that attacked the respiratory system and scorched the skin upon contact. The psychological impact of gas warfare was profound, leaving a generation of soldiers with a deep-seated, permanent fear of the unseen. It also necessitated the birth of defensive toxicology on a global scale. We saw the rapid development of gas masks, specialized filtration systems, and rudimentary decontaminants. The science of survival became intrinsically linked to the science of detection. If you could not identify the chemical signature of the gas in time, you were lost. The post-war era brought with it a disturbing legacy. The research conducted for chemical warfare, intended to find more effective ways to incapacitate or kill, simultaneously unveiled profound insights into neurochemistry and physiology. Substances developed as potential chemical weapons were later re-evaluated for their effects on the central nervous system. This is where the narrative takes a deeply complex turn. The very compounds that terrorized the trenches of World War I provided the foundational data for later pharmaceutical breakthroughs, particularly in the study of nerve impulses and the treatment of certain neurological disorders. It is a harsh paradox that the pursuit of mass death inadvertently mapped the inner workings of human life. Elias Untold Vance notes that this segment of our history is perhaps the most somber, as it demonstrates how easily the line between remedy and weapon can be erased by the demands of conflict. The toxicologist, once a guardian of health or a silent agent of justice, was drafted into the service of destruction. The world emerged from these conflicts with a new, sober awareness of chemical power. We learned that the chemical properties of a substance are neutral. It is the intent of the human hand that determines whether it heals or destroys. This period forced the global scientific community to establish the first international frameworks for the control and ethical use of chemical agents, marking a crucial step in the long, arduous journey toward global chemical literacy and accountability. The scars left on the landscape and the collective human memory serve as a permanent reminder of the terrifying efficiency with which human ingenuity can be turned against itself. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. As we emerge from the darkest chapters of chemical warfare, our narrative takes a surprising, almost redemptive turn. The post-war scientific landscape was littered with toxic compounds, nerve agents, and chemical inhibitors that were developed with the sole intent of causing devastation. Yet, the same chemical properties that made these substances lethal also made them incredibly potent keys to unlocking the secrets of human biology. We entered a paradoxical era where the deadliest research in history became the foundation for some of the most significant breakthroughs in modern pharmacology. The study of neurotoxins, in particular, provided the first real glimpse into how the brain sends and receives signals, leading to revolutionary treatments for conditions that were once considered incurable. This was the era of targeted intervention. By isolating the specific receptors in the human body that these toxins attacked, scientists discovered they could develop medicines that would lock onto those same receptors to correct malfunctions. Consider the development of acetylcholinesterase inhibitors. Originally researched for their lethal effects on the nervous system, these compounds became the standard treatment for myasthenia gravis and are now central to the management of Alzheimer's disease. It is a profound irony. The mechanism that was once designed to paralyze a soldier on the battlefield is now used to restore cognitive function and motor control to patients worldwide. The toxicologist's role evolved into that of an architect of medicine, meticulously dismantling the threat to isolate the cure. This period also saw the standardization of clinical trials and ethical toxicity testing. The world had seen enough of the reckless experimentation that characterized the early 20th century. Governments and international bodies began to mandate rigorous, transparent testing processes. Every new drug had to pass the toxicological gauntlet, a series of checks to ensure the substance didn't cause more harm than the disease it was meant to treat. This is the origin of the modern FDA-style approval process. Toxicology shifted from being a reactive science, a way to catch a killer, to a proactive science, a way to ensure the safety of our medicines before they ever reached the public. Elias Untold Vance highlights that this era defines the maturity of our relationship with poisons. We moved from fear to understanding, and from understanding to mastery. We stopped viewing toxic compounds as purely malevolent forces and began to recognize them as powerful, neutral tools that could be harnessed for human benefit. The pharmaceutical paradox is the defining narrative of our modern age. We are surrounded by more toxic substances than any generation in history, yet we live longer and healthier lives than ever before, largely because we have learned to control the dose, the delivery, and the interaction. The poison, once the hidden enemy of the elite and the secret weapon of the soldier, has become the essential component of the medicine cabinet. We have learned that to cure the future, we must look squarely at the darkness of the past. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. As the middle of the 20th century passed, our understanding of toxicology underwent a final crucial shift. We moved from the individual victim to the planetary patient. The realization dawned that poisons were not merely tools for assassination or weapons of war, but systemic pollutants that were quietly rewriting the biological fabric of our environment. This was the era of the Silent Spring, a period defined by the awakening of environmental consciousness. Scientists began to realize that synthetic chemicals, specifically pesticides like DDT and industrial byproducts like PCBs, were not just staying where they were applied. They were moving through the food chain, bioaccumulating in animals and humans alike, leading to long-term health crises that were far more insidious than a sudden, acute poisoning. This segment of our history is defined by the struggle between industrial necessity and ecological survival. For decades, the mantra of the chemical industry was, it was a message of progress that ignored the hidden cost of environmental toxicity. The toxicologists' mandate expanded once again, this time to include environmental science. We began to look at ecosystems as integrated toxicological systems. We discovered that a poison introduced in one corner of the globe could, through the cycles of wind, water, and predation, manifest as a devastating health issue thousands of miles away. The term persistent organic pollutants entered the lexicon, representing a new, terrifying breed of toxins that refused to break down, haunting the planet for generations. The battle against these pervasive toxins became a defining feature of modern governance and activism. It forced us to confront the reality that our health is inextricably linked to the health of the Earth. We saw the birth of global treaties, such as the Stockholm Convention, aimed at curbing the use of these substances. It was a massive collective recognition that we had been reckless with our mastery over chemistry. The forensic focus shifted from identifying who put the poison in a cup to determining how a chemical compound had traveled through the water table or the migratory patterns of birds. It was no longer just about justice for an individual. It was about the survival of the collective. Elias Untold Vance notes that this era brings our history full circle. We started by observing the natural toxicity of the world, the hemlock in the field, and the venom of the snake. And we ended by realizing that our own creations have become the most significant toxicological forces on the planet. The lesson of this period is one of profound humility. We learned that we cannot simply dose the environment as we would a human patient. The complex interconnectedness of natural systems makes the environmental impact of any chemical fundamentally unpredictable. Today, the study of toxicology is the study of sustainability itself. We are still learning the true cost of our chemical mastery, and the work of modern toxicologists is as much about prevention and stewardship as it is about analysis. We have reached an age where the greatest challenge is not avoiding the poison of an enemy, but managing the legacy of our own industrial ambition. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, Follow us and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. As we move into the current era, the field of toxicology has transcended the physical laboratory and entered the realm of the sub-microscopic. Modern forensic toxicology is no longer just about identifying a substance. It is about reconstruction. We have moved from the broad analysis of tissues to the forensic interrogation of individual cells and the complex biochemical pathways within them. Today, a forensic toxicologist functions more like a digital detective, utilizing technologies such as liquid chromatography mass spectrometry, LCMs, to identify minute, trace-level substances that would have been invisible to any scientist even 50 years ago. We are now capable of detecting a single molecule of a toxin in a complex matrix of biological fluid, a level of precision that has essentially eliminated the perfect crime through chemical concealment. This high-tech hunt for the truth has fundamentally altered the landscape of criminal justice. Modern methods allow us to map the entire history of a person's exposure to a toxin over weeks, months, or even years. We can analyze the hair, the nails, and the very structure of proteins to determine not just if someone was poisoned, but when the exposure occurred, in what dosage, and even the likely source. The courtroom of the 21st century is one where science provides not just proof, but narrative. Expert testimony is now backed by data-driven visualizations that track the movement of a compound from the point of ingestion to the final cellular impact, making the invisible undeniable. However, this immense power brings with it new, modern challenges. The rise of designer drugs and synthetic opioids has created a landscape of ever-shifting chemical targets. The black market is constantly innovating, synthesizing new compounds that are specifically designed to bypass standard testing protocols. The toxicologist is now engaged in a perpetual race against clandestine chemists, a high-stakes game of molecular cat and mouse. This requires a global, real-time sharing of data between laboratories and police agencies, a digital network of chemical intelligence that protects the public from threats before they become a public health crisis. The molecular detective is therefore not just a scientist. They are an analyst of global trends. Elias Untold Vance notes that this segment of our history is defined by the absolute erosion of anonymity. In the world of poison, there is no longer a place for a toxin to hide. We have achieved a state where our ability to observe the internal reality of the body matches our ability to manipulate the external world. But even with all this technology, the fundamental principle remains the same. The truth is written in the chemistry of our cells. We have simply learned how to read that script with perfect clarity. The history of the unseen killer is reaching its conclusion as the light of forensic technology penetrates the deepest shadows of our biological existence. We have built a world where secrets are increasingly difficult to maintain, and where the justice system is powered by the cold, unyielding language of molecules. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. As we push further into the 21st century, the field of toxicology is undergoing its most profound transformation yet. The integration of artificial intelligence and machine learning. The sheer volume of chemical data generated by modern industry is far beyond the capacity of human analysis alone. We are now witnessing the birth of the computational toxicologist. AI algorithms can now simulate the interaction between chemical compounds and biological systems, with staggering accuracy, predicting potential toxic effects long before a substance is ever physically manufactured. This shift from physical testing to in silico modeling represents a leap in safety that was inconceivable only a generation ago. We are no longer waiting for the poison to show its effects. We are predicting its behavior before it even enters the laboratory. This digital frontier allows us to screen millions of compounds in a matter of hours, identifying patterns in molecular structures that correlate with toxicity. It is a new kind of molecular profiling that is being used to design safer alternatives to the industrial chemicals of the past. By understanding the underlying physics of how a poison interacts with our cellular machinery, AI is helping us build a future where we can design drugs, pesticides, and industrial materials that are biologically benign by default. We are moving from a reactive stance, where we identify poisons after the harm is done, to a design-based stance, where safety is integrated at the atomic level. However, this reliance on AI introduces new complexities. How do we ensure the ethics of these algorithms? As we delegate the responsibility of toxicity assessment to machines, we must maintain a rigorous human oversight. The potential for a black box scenario, where an AI dismisses a real-world risk based on an incomplete data set, is a challenge that current regulatory bodies are grappling with. Forensic toxicology, too, is changing. AI can now reconstruct a poisoning event from fragmented evidence with a level of detail that human investigators might miss, correlating data from thousands of past cases to identify signatures in modern crimes. Elias Untold Vance notes that we are entering an era where our mastery of chemistry is being augmented by our mastery of information. The history of poison is, in essence, a history of human interaction with the hidden forces of nature. Throughout this series, we have tracked the journey from the ancient, whispered secrets of the hemlock to the algorithmic certainty of the AI laboratory. We have moved from the fear of the unseen to the total illumination of the microscopic world. Yet, the fundamental lesson remains unchanged. Our tools, whether they are stone mortars, silver goblets, or neural networks, are only as wise as the hands that wield them. As we stand on the precipice of this new computational age, the legacy of our toxicological past serves as both a warning and a guide. We have the power to engineer a safer world, but we must never lose sight of the responsibility that comes with that power. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. As we approach the end of our exploration, we must confront the most challenging aspect of our journey: the ethical mandate that accompanies our absolute mastery over chemistry. Having moved from the ancient intuitive use of poisons to the current age of computational simulation, we find ourselves at a historical crossroads. We possess the ability to synthesize almost any compound, to predict its behavior with machine-like precision, and to detect it at the level of a single atom. Yet, this power has outpaced our social and philosophical maturity. The question is no longer what can we create, but what should we create? And how do we ensure the sanctity of life in a world saturated with the potential for chemical harm? The history of toxicology is littered with the consequences of unbound progress. From the industrial disasters of the 20th century to the modern crisis of opioid synthesis, we have seen that whenever we prioritize technological capability over environmental and human stewardship, disaster follows. This segment of our story emphasizes that the modern toxicologist is, by definition, an ethicist. The stewardship of chemical knowledge requires a commitment to transparency, the democratization of safety data. We are moving toward a framework of responsible chemistry, where the creator of a new molecule is held accountable for its entire life cycle, from the moment of its synthesis to its eventual decomposition. We must also address the global disparity in chemical literacy. In a world where the most sophisticated forensic and medical tools are concentrated in the wealthiest nations, the most vulnerable populations often remain on the front lines of chemical exposure, lacking the means to identify or mitigate the risks. A true, mature toxicological era must be one of global equity. The knowledge that can identify a poison in a cup in a modern laboratory must be accessible to communities facing industrial contamination in the developing world. The molecular detective model is incomplete if it only serves to protect the privileged few. It must become a global standard of public health, acting as a shield for all of humanity against the invisible threats of our own making. Elias Untold Vance reflects that this is the final lesson of the unseen killer. We have spent centuries hunting for the source of death, only to realize that the most potent source of danger is our own lack of foresight. The true poison of our modern era is not a specific chemical compound, but the culture of indifference toward the long-term consequences of our innovations. As we look toward the future, we must cultivate a deep, reflexive wisdom that matches our technological prowess. We have learned to see the invisible, to track the molecule, and to simulate the future. Now we must learn to govern ourselves. The age of the invisible killer ends not with the perfect test or the fastest algorithm, but with the collective, conscious decision to value life above all other markers of success. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. As we arrive at the conclusion of our journey through the history of toxicity, we find that the unseen killer was never truly a separate entity from humanity. Poison has been our shadow, a dark, silent partner in every step of our advancement. From the primitive realization of the hemlock sting to the sophisticated mastery of molecular analysis and AI-driven safety, our history is, in truth, the story of our growing awareness. We have spent millennia learning to identify the hidden threats in our cups, our air, and our industry. But more importantly, we have learned that the struggle against the unseen is, ultimately, a struggle to define our own nature. We are the creators, the victims, and the potential saviors of our own story. Elias Untold Vance offers a final reflection. The history of toxicology is a grand, unfolding narrative of human maturation. We have transitioned from a state of superstitious fear to one of scientific enlightenment. We have moved from the vulnerability of the individual to the collective responsibility of the species. The poison of today is no longer an external enemy to be feared. It is the challenge of our own ingenuity, a test of whether we can hold the power of gods with the wisdom of stewards. Our tools have become incredibly sharp, capable of seeing into the very heart of matter, yet they serve no purpose if they do not guide us toward a more harmonious existence with the natural world. The legacy we leave for the generations to come will not be measured by the chemicals we synthesized, but by the safety we engineered and the environmental wisdom we cultivated. We have reached a point where the invisible is no longer unknown. We have peered into the darkness, mapped the molecules, and developed the machines to stand watch over our biological destiny. As the curtain falls on this chronicle, we are left with a simple, profound truth. We are the keepers of the balance. The fight against the unseen has changed us, sharpening our intellect and deepening our sense of global unity. We are no longer the frightened observers of natural threats. We are the guardians of a world we have fundamentally reshaped. The story of the unseen killer ends not with a final victory over a villain, but with the emergence of a new kind of human, one who understands that progress is only as valid as its impact on the weakest among us. As you walk away from this series, remember that every breath, every drink, and every interaction is a part of this complex chemical dance. We have the knowledge. We have the tools. We have the history. The future of our relationship with the world is ours to script. And in that script, let us ensure that wisdom, empathy, and stewardship remain the guiding principles. The shadows have been lifted. The invisible is seen. Now, it is time to build. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey.